Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Villains on the Rebirth server. We are with Nightmare Lass, our level 43 Mastermind, who has about 1.25 million XP to go to get to level 44. And we are on a story arc for Ghost Widow, our sort of patron. She says, Nightmare Lass, I have thought it over and have come to the decision that I wish to test this ceremony, but I truly do not wish to make Red Widow live again. No, were she to live once more, she would likely be able to wrest control of the widows and Fortunatas from me. I cannot allow that to happen. In order to complete the ceremony without rendering her solid, you will need a vessel for her spirit, such as a circle of thorns crystal. Seek one of the crystals and perform the ceremony and bring Red Widow's spirit back to me. What will I do once I have Widow Spirit in my grasp? It's hard to say, Nightmare Lass. No witnesses or clues remain to implicate us in the theft of her belongings, and once you have the soul crystal, there will be nothing to stop us. Do you know that Lord Recluse called me by her name once? He confided his uncertainty about an upcoming operation to me, and then told me that he felt like he could trust me above all others, and it was minutes later that I realized that he had called me by her name and not my own. No, it's best not to think of what will become of the Red Widow. I think it is better if you do not wonder. Alright, so we are going to go to this mission and see if we can test the ceremony, but not bring her back to life. Sort of weird that Ghost Widow's characterization of what makes you alive is that you're solid. Lots of things are solid and aren't alive. Right? In fact, as a biology professor, I know that one of the things we spend a lot of time with students in college in their first bio course is what is life and how do you know something is alive versus something that isn't? And there are certain characteristics of life. Solidity isn't one of the ones we talk about. Right? You have things like it maintains itself, right? Like your cells maintain themselves, and you have things like they can reproduce, but solidity isn't one of them. So that's sort of an interesting take from her on it, that to her what makes you alive is solidity. Now, of course, it makes you a non-ghost, right? And I understand that, but it's a little odd that she would view it simply as being solid. Alright, we're going to go through this portal. Hopefully the minions will follow. Okay, there they are. And we will kill the behemoth first. There you go. Freeze him up. Let's go, Curly. Hurry up. Freeze him before he gets surrounded. That's it. We don't want him to get surrounded. If he goes invincible, we can't hit him. There we go. One thing I would like to address that is not directly related to City of Heroes, but is generic for role-playing games, particularly games where there's a GM. By the way, I think to some degree, same thing would apply to a guild master, you know, the guild leader in a guild. So there was a guy on one of the forums I read, the D&D Beyond forum, and what he wanted to know was within D&D Beyond, if he makes changes to his character sheet, will the dungeon master automatically be notified? At first, I thought it was a dungeon master asking if players make changes to their character sheets, will I be notified? And I thought he meant stuff like, you know, hit points of damage or taking a long rest so that he knows how many hit points the characters have and he doesn't actually kill them, and you know, so he can keep track of rests and stuff like that. But no, this was actually a player who had created a character, started playing with a group, and decided that he didn't quite like the stats of his character. Now, in Dungeons & Dragons, you have 6 sort of abilities, which often are called stats or statistics. Years ago, they used to be called characteristics, and they still are in Champions. And these characteristics are things like strength, dexterity, intelligence, constitution, charisma, and wisdom. Not necessarily listed in that order. Your strength is, of course, how much you can lift and how hard your character hits in combat. Your dexterity is how agile, how lithe you are. Your constitution is how resistant you are to damage and shocking, system shocks and things like that. Your wisdom is how perceptive you are. It's really more intuition than wisdom, the way they define it. But it's basically how intuitive and perceptive you are. Your intelligence is, how smart you are, and your charisma is how charming you are. Do I hear a glowy? I thought I heard one. Um, so that's sort of like the natural abilities of your character. That's why they call them abilities now. And these things help you do things in gameplay. And so many character classes, all character classes, their day-to-day activities, the skills they use, the abilities that they employ are specific to that class. So, for example, wizards, their spells are based on their intelligence. How hard-hitting their spells are, how many spells they can cast, and things like that are determined by how high their intelligence is and what their bonuses are to intelligence score. If you're a rogue or a thief, let's say, and your agility matters a lot, then dexterity is the thing that needs to be high for your character. And so this is true for all character classes. And most character classes have what's called a prime stat, or basically a primary ability, such as dexterity for the rogue. And then they usually have a secondary ability. For example, a monk might have dexterity and wisdom is the second most important ability, because some of their monkly abilities, like doing quivering palm or something, are based on their wisdom rather than their dexterity. And so often fighters, their secondary stat is constitution, so strength to do damage, constitution to take hits. And so if you're building a fighter and you didn't put your in the old days you rolled the stats in order, and whatever your first roll was strength, and whatever your second roll was intelligence or whatever, and that was it. But in modern Dungeons and Dragons, you can roll the stats and put them anywhere you want, and a lot of times people don't roll stats at all, but they put points into. Right, you start with a base stat of 8 and everything, with 18 being the max that you can start with, and then you add points, and the higher you make it, the more points it costs. It's not a linear cost. It sort of like goes up exponentially. So it's pretty cheap to get a stat up to 10 or 11, and then it becomes extremely expensive to go over 13 or 14. And so a lot of people do this. It's called point buy. Alternatively, you can do an array, and everybody gets a 17, a 15, a 13, a 12, or something like that. And you can generally put the points or the best ability wherever you want. So your fighter, you should be putting your best ability in strength, your second best in con. Sometimes people try to experiment with other things, being a dex-based fighter and using 2-weapon combo, or bow and arrow type fighter is an example. Or you can be a wizard who's like a combat wizard who does like blade singing or whatever, and then you need other stats besides just your intelligence. And so sometimes, when you start up a character, before you go a level or two, you think you're going to need one set of stats, and then at the end, after like third or fourth level, as you start to specialize your character in a subclass, you realize, gee, I wish my third highest score was in charisma rather than intelligence. And, usually, traditionally, once you set something up and once you play it in a game session, you're not supposed to be just changing it. Now, every 4 levels in D&D, you can add to a stat, but you generally aren't allowed to move your stats around or take points from one stat to another once gameplay has begun. Now, I allowed it for my players because one was new to D&D and one was new to 5th edition, and so I figured, and I was pretty new to 5th edition, so I said, I don't mind if you guys do some adjusting. And what we agreed was they could adjust until 4th level, and then once they had completed their leveling up to 4th level, no more adjustments to what they had. But traditionally, once you pick your stats, other than leveling up, you're not allowed to change them. So what this player had done was he had realized that he didn't particularly like the way his stat array was set up, and he wanted to change it. And, a lot of times you can't do that. It depends on the rules. It depends on the DM. a lot of DMs will say you're stuck. You can't change the stats once you pick them. Now, I don't think you should do that, and I think most modern DMs actually don't do that. But in the old days, whatever your stats were, they were, and you were kind of stuck. So what this player had written was that he wants to be able to go in. He wants to know that if he goes in and stealthily, sneakily, his words, changes his character stats without the DM, without telling the DM, might he be able to do it without the DM noticing and get a more effective, efficient character, and the DM doesn't realize it. And they were talking about, well, there is nothing in the system of D&D Beyond that alerts the dungeon master to the fact that the character has been edited. So unless the dungeon master knows what your character, what is that over there? Unless the dungeon master knows what your character was, let's say they have a backup copy of it or something, it's possible that the dungeon master might not notice you did it. In fact, it's pretty likely if it's a big party and it's fairly new. But of course, what we all said to him is, dude, you shouldn't be doing that, right? It's cheating. The dungeon master didn't tell you you could change your stats. You can't. You're not supposed to be like trying to hide things from the dungeon master. Is this one of the things you're looking for? It looks like it. We've utilized the soul crystal. That was it. This clear crystal lit by reddish light. It contains a captured soul of Red Widow. You have to wonder whether holding this thing is entirely safe. Seriously, we didn't even have to like fight her ghost or anything. That's pretty surprising. So yeah, I guess what I wanted to say is, guys, look, all this stuff about stats aside, if the game rules that you're playing don't allow for something, don't do it. Ask the game master. Most game masters would say, well, why do you want to change your stats? And if you explain, look, I thought I was going to subclass Arcane Trickster, and I actually decided I want to subclass a Scout. And so having this higher intelligence really doesn't work for me, and I'd rather put the points into, I don't know, charisma or whatever, wisdom, right, for perception rolls. Like most dungeon masters, I think, early on would say, okay. I mean, maybe if you're 18th level and you say, now that I've been 18 levels, I want to move my stats around, the DM would say, you're 18th level, you're locked in. But at second or third level, if you decide that your build would be better done a certain way, I think most DMs would be understanding about that. And if they're not, you can decide that you don't want to play in the game because the DM is a heartless jerk, but you're not supposed to cheat. And that's what you're doing when you lie to the DM or you hide from the DM what you've got in your character sheet. And it only makes things worse because the DM has to look at your character sheet, know your character, and then based on your character and the other characters in the game, build an adventure. And so if he thinks you have a high wisdom and therefore you're going to have the best perception in the party, and he assumes you're going to be able to find traps, and he puts a bunch of traps in there, and he doesn't know you moved all your points out of wisdom, he can make the whole adventure impossible because your character has something he doesn't realize, or doesn't have something the DM thought he had. So, like, don't cheat, right? It's not a competition. Your dungeon master should know everything, and you should have a good enough relationship with your dungeon master that you can have a heart-to-heart talk, explain things, and trust the dungeon master to do what's fair. If you can't trust your dungeon master to be fair, don't play D&D with him. I mean, it's that simple. I think one of the problems in this day and age is a lot of people, I have a friend doing this with two different game groups. A lot of people are playing D&D online with folks they don't really know from real life. And so it's like here, you're in a pickup group. You don't know whether you can trust these people or not. And the couple times I played on pickup groups, I was with, one or two good people and like one or two idiots. And the idiots always made the game suck, which is why I don't do pickup groups. And you can't know who you're with, and you can't trust potentially the people on your pickup group, and that makes it pretty awful. That's why I always used to team with my super group, because I knew I could trust them not to be jerks, not to be incompetent, and not to like leave me behind and leave me to die or something like that. So, and I mean my character to die, not me actually, right? So yeah, don't game with people you can't trust, and even if it's an internet game with a DM, you should start off with a fundamental base of I trust this guy, unless or girl, unless they do something to undermine that trust. At which point you have a conversation and you straighten it out or you get out of the group. Don't game with a DM who has proven to you that you cannot trust them. All right. So we were able to draw out the soul. Excellent. Let me have it now. I will prepare some basic tests and quickly. So she says, you must go at once to Granville. I'm in Granville. Arbiter Deus has summoned you. He would not tell me his purpose, and I have no authority to compel him to answer. Whatever he wants, please dispense with it quickly. He probably has some errand for the glory of Arachnos, which is important, of course, but not something I can be bothered with. I must work out the extent of the ceremony and prepare it. This should buy some time to do so. So I think this isn't going to be a junk mission. I think Arbiter Deus knows what she's doing and is going to tell us to backstab her or at least pump us for information. Or maybe even send us on a busy work mission so that he can confront Ghost Widow without her best servant at her elbow. Right? Because he knows I've been working for her. I don't know, that's a guess. I've never done this story as far as I remember. This is 43. I mean, the level 43 is as high as I ever got as a villain, so I don't know if I did this story arc. Possibly. If so, I have no memory of it. This would have been 15 years ago. Welcome, Nightmare Lass. I believe you have put yourself in an unfortunate predicament, and I am here to give you a chance to extricate yourself. First of all, do not attempt to act innocent. Yes, I know everything that's happened, and I know what's being planned. Ghost Widow has far underestimated my intelligence gathering, and she's going to pay for that. Ghost Widow's actions against Red Widow are unforgivable, and she must be punished for them. Normally, you would be executed for your part in this, but Lord Recluse believes that you may have a greater destiny, and has decided to spare your life, and possibly even promote you if you are willing to betray Ghost Widow and mete out her punishment. Your first task is to recover Red Widow's soul. Take this false crystal, go to the Widow's Tower in Mercy Island, and replace the real crystal with the decoy. When that's done, return to me. I knew he was going to make me double-cross her. And no, it's not because I remember this. It's just because it makes the most sense that he would get involved in this. Not him in particular, but somebody would have found this out and gotten involved. There are too many factions in Arachnos, and they're all fighting with each other. So, the life of a villain, everybody betraying everybody else. The essence of chaotic evil, right? Mercy Island, we haven't been there in a long time. Let's see. Replace the crystals. I thought there was only one crystal. And of course, none of this is cleared because the last time I was here was on my other computer, and I wasn't able to figure out how to move the map. Updating, like, in other words, the map stays, it's part of the game, but wherever the data is stored to tell the game how much of the map you have cleared, I couldn't find it. And so none of what we cleared is on this map. And of course we go into another yummy Arachnos lab. Oh boy. They're right here, aren't they? Alright, let's actually start with Curly then, because we're going to get straight into combat. I guess I got a little lazy. I used to summon in the beginning of the missions, right? And then I got ambushed a bunch of times in the lower level missions. And so I then started summoning outside and bringing them in, but it's been so long since I got ambushed at a mission door that I've just kind of gotten lazy and started summoning them inside again. Also, when I was in Granville at 40th level, I didn't want to summon these guys because I figured they'd aggro a bunch of the purples around me and we would get wiped. So I was trying to stop them from doing that. And, yeah, so I got a little lazy. Sorry about that, guys. Elevator right here. You gotta wonder what's the point of a level that's a hallway and an elevator. Why don't I just put the door one level up? Sort of weird. You guys coming? Let's go. Still have not thought about what I want to do for my next Let's Play, if anything. We're winding down both this and House Flipper. It's not going to stop probably before... Certainly not going to stop before the end of December. We'll be well into January, I think, before I'm done with both games. But I'm not entirely sure what I want to do next. I mean, I'm going to keep playing City of Heroes. I feel like I'm probably about done with House Flipper. Luxury Flipper is getting ready to come out, I think. They just updated that game, and you'll see in episode, I think, 40 or 41, that they've changed the interface around a little bit. I was completely thrown when I got in there. And one of the things, in addition to moving items around in the store, another level is just hallways and an elevator. One of the things they did, in addition to moving items around in the store to different bookmarks that actually make them a little easier to deal with, is they added a couple of posters, like promo posters, for Luxury Flipper or House Flipper luxury items or whatever it's called. And so I think that means it's probably getting ready to come out. I don't know if they're going to bring it out for the holiday or maybe they're going to bring it out in January. If they do, I might go back and play it a little bit. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like, obviously, if I had the luxury items, I would be using them. But I'm not sure I need to go all the way back and start playing it again just to redo houses I've already done with luxury items. I don't see the point of that. I mean, yeah, they'll look nicer, but I've done them already. So we'll see what happens. So my guess is I'm going to have, somewhere on the order of about 12 to 15 more House Flipper episodes. My guess is there won't be any more than about 45 to, around also 40, about 52. And then this season, we're on, this is episode, I think, 15? And so if this is episode 15, I suspect more elevators. This is really a silly base. It's just hallways. Like, no rooms at all. Anyway, I suspect we're on episode 15. I'm guessing, we got probably about 30 episodes left to go of this, so it'll be a while, right? If I post an episode a day with breaks for leveling up half a level, we're looking at about a month and a half to 2 months. So it's not going to stop immediately, but we are winding toward. We're coming out of the back stretch into the home stretch, I think, with this game, and we're already in the home stretch with House Flipper. And so I got to think about what do I want to do next, but I don't want to think too hard about it, right? Because if I get excited about a game and start playing it, I'm never going to finish these things. I really do want to finish COH and House Flipper before I start something new. Or at least one of them before I start something new. But I definitely want to start something new. But only one thing. Right now I'm playing City of Heroes and House Flipper, obviously. And I'm filming them both and posting them both. But I'm not going to stop playing City of Heroes even if I stop filming it. So I don't want to be trying to do two things at once. The only reason I'm doing two at once here is because I started doing House Flipper for fun, of course, and I enjoyed it. But also to have something to post on the day or 2 or 3 it takes me to get to the next level, and that I'm not filming with City of Villains, right? So it's like I'm going to be playing COH whether I film it or not. So if I don't film it and I do 2 other things, I don't know, I won't have time. So is there a boss in here? No, just Fortunatus. All right. There's the glowy. You think they could have at least made it look like a crystal? What do we got? We gathered the items and learned the Ghost Widow. I don't think there's anything new. Yeah, I don't think there's anything new. That's weird. Alright, let's head out. This has been a very odd story arc. We have replaced the real crystal with the fake one. And now we need to go to Deos. So we go to the ferry. We'll head back. Yeah, so if you guys have ideas for a game we could try, I'll certainly take suggestions. If people really want to see me continue doing City of Heroes with like a brute and going back over all the same content we've already done, I mean, let me know, but I feel like I don't know what I would talk about. I mean, I'm already even here talking about like D&D and stuff. You know, partly because it's fun and interesting, and hopefully people find it entertaining, but also partly because just how much more am I going to talk about? I'm attacking this thing with my minions. I'm attacking this thing with my minions. I'm attacking this thing with my minions. I mean, there's just so much you can do. There are only so many times I can say the same thing. So, I tried the speed runs. I really, it was fun to do when they were like doing 10x XP weekend or something, and I was able to get like 10 or quadruple, whatever it was, quintuple XP weekend, and I was able to like gain 10 or 11 levels in like 3 or 4 hours, and then condense that into like a half-hour video. I mean, that I could see if they do giant XP boost weekends again, I could kind of see it. But operating at the normal pace, a speed run's just not going to work. And I tried putting it to some music. I didn't really like that. I think I would do a voiceover, and now I've got to do the voiceover of the thing, but I can't do it live because then it would get, you wouldn't be able to hear. It'd sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks when it was sped up. So I don't know. I don't think I want to do that. So I really think when we hit level 50, we're done. We've done a full hero, we've done a full renegade, and like a rogue or whatever, and we've done a full villain. And I think at that point, with 2 full playthroughs on Rebirth and nearly a full playthrough on Homecoming 250, but then none of the post 50 content because we got banned from posting videos from there. I think we've done enough City of Heroes. I really do. So unless somebody has like some sort of a offbeat idea that we could try thinking of some other games that might be fun to do. No guarantees I'm going to say yes to any of them, but maybe there's some that I haven't thought of that might be a lot of fun. And go ahead and post in the comments. So, my Lord Recluse will be glad to have this. Excuse me. And that gratitude will almost be enough to spare your life. Despite your part in this, one more thing. And not only will you be forgiven your trespass, but you may well be rewarded. When Ghost Widow attempts to restore her life, you are to use that moment to strike her down once more. Her soul will resume its ghostly unlife and once more be bound to Arachnos. The Red Widow was one of Lord Recluse's most trusted assistants. It was she who assassinated the original leader of Arachnos, leaving our Lord in charge. What was his name? I don't know. And over all the years he has been in power, Lord Recluse has never forgotten this. Remember that. Lord Recluse never forgets. And if you fail to mete out the punishment I decree for Ghost Widow, Lord Recluse will not forget that either. I'm not afraid of Recluse. I'm level 43 and I have 6 demons on my side. Yeah, I know he's an archvillain. I have often thought our poor Ghost Widow might hold a hatred for Red Widow, a rivalry of sorts, though the two have never met. They are both beautiful ghosts who still haunt Arachnos, though in different ways. Maybe it is jealousy that drove Ghost Widow to this. In the end, it doesn't matter. Just remember your part. Instead of helping return her to life, you are to defeat her. Well, this sounds like a job for Team Inspirations. I don't have very many of those. So let's take a look at what we've got. We have Team Resist effects. Okay, that looks good. And that is it. That is the only team inspiration we have. We have some Frosty Aegis. I gotta try to remember that. It only works for 10 minutes. I don't know how long this is going to go. Survival Amplifier. Let's go ahead and claim that. That helps us just a little tiny bit. It gives us some extra HP and recovery. Not a lot. A little bit, a few percent here, a few percent there. That should help a little. The rest of this is just inspirations. Let me try this one here. That gives a double resistance and luck. We don't need a lot of resistance because we're going to get to near the cap with our minion buffs. Okay, so let's see. Let's call Ghost Widow. And she says, "You return, my name alas, and alive. That can only mean that Deus knows nothing. If he suspects anything, he surely would have you dealt with." Did that sound callous of me? It's difficult to tell. The dead often forget the perils of the living. It will be so strange to experience it all once more. Whatever Arbiter Deus wanted from you, it need not delay my ceremony any longer. I will be flesh again, Nightmare Lass. I will walk the streets again once more. Well, here we go. You must go to the tunnels of Mu once more. There you can enact the ritual that will make me mortal at last. So now our mission is to betray Ghost Widow. I have to say, I like that you can betray her, but I really think it should have been a choice. Right? You should have had the choice to go to Ghost Widow and betray her. Like, give me 2 mission doors. Like, one door, betray Ghost Widow. One door, do what Ghost Widow wants and don't betray her. And then fine, let me fight like Lord Recluse at the end of it or something. But I should get that choice. Even if it means my character dies, I should get that choice. But they don't really do that in City of Heroes. And when they do it, they do it badly with all of the ridiculous dialogue boxes. Alright, let us bring out our minions, because I don't know if we're going to get ambushed. Probably not here, because this doesn't look like an Arachnos base. This looks like a cave or a tunnel. But, just in case. This may be our last mission at level 43. I'm not sure. I've thought that a couple of times. I thought this was going to be a much shorter arc, because the other ones at this level and the last couple levels have been very short. Now, Team Break Free will be very good. It will help avoid, like, knockback and stuff, but it's not going to help our minions with resistance. So, trap Ghost Widow and then defeat Ghost Widow. So we're going to have to fight her. This is a +1 mission. We might not be able to do this, but we'll see. Our guys do pretty well against, like, demons and ghosts, so maybe we can. If not, I won't make you watch the whole thing again. I'll pause it, go out, switch to +0, and then bring you back just for the fight with Ghost Widow. Yeah, it would have been nice in the dialogue if you could have, like, warned her and betrayed Deus. And it doesn't even have to be a substantially different mission. It could just be Ghost Widow saying, "I will send my summoned clone," or whatever, my summoned, like, avatar to you so that they think you've killed me, but I won't actually be dead, or something like that. Fight the behemoth. Freeze him. There it is. That's what we want. These tunnels always make me think of Dungeons and Dragons. It's the sort of thing you adventure through in a dungeon. And of course the circle themselves. They've got swords, they've got cloaks, they've got mages. It's a very fantasy super group. Villain group, I guess. What are we doing here? Circling back around? Oh no, it's heading off. So what we gotta hope is that GW is +1 and not +2. If she's +2, I will not be able to, I will probably not be able to beat her. Let's go, guys. Kill. There you go. Good job. Come this way. Up here, please. Okay. Follow me. Yeah, this was not original to the game. This was a newer tile set that was added after, I don't know, issue 2 or 3. This is one of my favorite tile sets. I think I've said this before. I have a friend who hates it. He doesn't like the maziness, but I feel like this is way better than the Arachno Slayers. And I like this better than like the warehouses. Even though the warehouses are probably the easiest maps in terms of navigation because they're usually all one floor and um, it's pretty open. So they're sort of the easiest to wander through. And my guys are going to object to these pain crystals here. But we got to get to, let's see, what do we got? We've got to get to the summoning ritual. Oh, fight the behemoth. There you go. Freeze him. Well, keep him over there. I don't care. Like, if they don't surround him, I don't mind. The biggest problem is when they surround him. Speaking of pickup groups, it's not exactly a pickup group. So as I mentioned, my friend, my best friend, is now. We aggroed another spawn, didn't we? There's a behemoth. One of the problems with the behemoths is they look a lot like my demons, and my demons are cooler looking, but they're very similar to my demons, and so I always kind of miss that one's there when there's an extra. I miss the ads. I don't notice. So now we're going to be constantly missing this guy. Let's fight the Airthorn caster instead. Maybe the other guy will turn off his stupid invincibility. And let me move out of there because I don't want to be adding my presence to his defense. It's already insane. Look at miss, 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 miss. They cannot hit. As he runs away, so one saving grace is that as he runs away, because of the ice that we're throwing on him and he's trying to get out of that radius, as he runs away, he reduces his defense because none of my minions are fewer of my minions are next to him. Let's put it that way. So anyway, pick up groups, pick up D&D groups. Very similar to pick up COH groups. My best friend, is obsessed with D&D. We only play every other week. That's not enough for him. He wants to play not only every week, but way more than every week. He wants to play a couple times a week. And of course, my group can't do that. We play every other week. So, and as a DM, I couldn't. We would have to change campaigns into a campaign that's more like randomly generated stuff. Yeah, we can go to a dungeon crawl and like I can randomly generate monsters and run that. But careful planning of a campaign with all sorts of pre-made maps and everything, that's not going to happen on a weekly basis because I don't have time. Even when I'm off, and certainly during work, I do not have time. So, and he knows this. So he said, "Oh, I want to play." So he decided to join some different groups, and he joined these online groups. Let's just port this guy up here. He got in with one group on two groups on Roll20. I think one he found through Facebook and one he found through maybe D&D Beyond. I'm not really sure. And so he joined a couple of these groups. And what he's found is that some of it's fun, some of it's great, and some of it's, just like with a pickup group, some of it's really frustrating. And there are some people who are knuckleheads. So he said, he's my age, we're both oldies. We come from old school D&D times. Although he doesn't really like old school D&D much anymore. I love it, but he doesn't. And so anyway, he he said the one group that meets on Sunday afternoons is a bunch of young people. And he was a little concerned with that. But I said, well, how young? And he said, well, 20s. I said, well, that's not too bad. People who are post-college, they should be all right, you know. Um, oh, hello, Behemoth. Let me teleport you right here. I'll bring my guys up to meet you. Kill. That's what I want. See the freeze, and then he can't turn on his invincibility. And now you guys can go down there and kill. Go kill. So anyway, so he's got this Sunday group, and a couple of the people are young. And I guess the two youngest people are husband and wife. And these guys are playing, and you can look this up online and see what it's about. I won't get into details. They're playing an adventure called Waterdeep Dragon Heist. It's for levels 1 to 5. It's routinely listed as one of the best, if not the best, of the published hardback D&D adventures. It's routinely praised as being a really good adventure. I won't say module, because these aren't modular anymore. They're long adventures. This one's fairly short compared to some of the ones that go from level 1 to 15, or 1 to 10. So, it's a DM and 6 players. And they first played 2 weeks ago. And they had a session 0, which is like where you meet and talk about what you're going to do. And then they first met 2 weeks ago. Started the first session of play 2 weeks ago, and so the husband and wife in session 0 said, "Hey, let's all know each other and be part of like a detective agency." And the other players said, "Hey, we think that sounds cool," and the DM said that will work really well for what this adventure is all about. So they decided to do it. And then in the first session, the husband and wife who suggested the detective agency didn't show up. And then in the second session, they showed up, but the wife, I think, hadn't completed her character and didn't have a name for her character and stuff. And he said, well, it's understandable. She's apparently working on her PhD thesis. I said, excuse me, I did a PhD thesis. No, it's not understandable. There's no reason to forget your character's name, which is apparently what she forgot. She named her character and then forgot what she named it and couldn't remember it, so they gave it a temporary name. Like, a name is one word. I'm sorry, but there is no PhD thesis that is so hard that you can't remember a single word that you made up. That's just ridiculous. So, hey guys, my minions are going to kill you. You're summoning something, you summoned the wrong thing. You summoned my minions and me. So he was frustrated with them, and then he said in the middle of the session, they got into a debate about, I guess the best way to say it is the fundamental topic is quote-unquote diversity in Dungeons & Dragons, where they have gotten into all this, well, goblins aren't racially evil and orcs aren't racially evil, and if you say they are, you're a racist, which is sort of ridiculous. I mean, I guess you're technically a D&D racist, but that doesn't mean you're a real-world racist, because real-world racists are about humans, and orcs aren't humans. I was just, in fact, working on my players might be going... One of my players suggested that they might be going somewhere that I wasn't really ready for them to go, and it's like the next ruined city, because it's actually pretty close to the current one they're in, and I thought they were going to go back to their base town, but the one guy was like, maybe we won't do that. Maybe we'll go to the next city, since it's only like 5 days away from us, in the opposite direction of the town, right? So, like, it would be more efficient to just stay out in the wilderness and go to this other city. So I said, okay, I've got to make it up, and I looked up what I had listed. And the way I've done this is, rather than placing enemies on the map, and I guess this is a little kind of gamey, but I want it to be challenging and interesting to them. So instead of placing enemies on the map, what I've said is, okay, there's 6 ruined cities, and whichever one they go to first is going to be gnolls. And then whichever one they go to next is going to be, I don't remember, bugbears. And then whichever one they go to next is going to be a beholder or whatever. And so I got to do gnolls, right? And I said, okay, so I looked up gnolls, and I was working on, kind of how the gnolls came to be in the D&D canon, and, they're all spawn of the demon Yeenagoo. Gnolls are hyenas, basically, right? I mean, like, hyenas followed Yeenagoo around and ate the corpses of the people he killed, and somehow transformed from hyenas into humanoid gnolls. So they're basically like sentient bipedal hyenas. Like, quite literally, that's where they came from. They're not humans. They're nothing like humans. And there's no reason to treat them as if they're humans. Right? And many of the other races, like goblins and orcs and stuff, are also similarly spawn of evil gods. But anyway, some people want to treat all of the sentient races as if they are just variants of humans, and even some of the popular D&D TV shows do this, and they're just sort of ugly looking to us humans and have the full range of emotion and sentience and morality that humans have. So these players, and you see how long it took me to go over that, these players, I'm going to search this area before we do any clicking because I want to make sure there are no enemies here to get into aggro with us. See, there we go. As long as it took me to explain that and talk about it, and probably longer than that, they interrupted their session to start talking about it. Because I guess one of the first encounters was them fighting goblins, and they started to talk about the morality of killing goblins and the morality of the world of the Forgotten Realms and what the races are like. And, you know, as this friend of mine said, look, it's a totally valid topic, but not in the middle of a freaking game session. We're trying to play here. I mean, if they're talking about the situation in character is one thing, but they weren't talking about it in character. They were talking about it out of character. They were talking about the contents of the article published on the Wizards of the Coast site a couple of months ago called Diversity in Dungeons & Dragons and its validity or not. And so, well, of course, they were arguing for its validity and for its adoption. And I'm like, yeah, if you want to address that in session 0, go for it. But you're in the middle of a session 2, when you missed session 1. Why are you interrupting it now? If you wanted to deal with this, you should have shown up to the previous session. So he was pretty aggravated with them. He said they also were very spotlight steely, and he didn't really like that. And then his second group, he said they like ignored all the bells and whistles and went straight for like, let's go find this guy and kill him. They were doing Rime of the Frost Maiden, and I guess there's a serial killer, and they were like, we're just going to find the serial killer. And when they found him, they just killed him. They didn't ask him why he was killing people. They didn't role play at all. They just chopped into pieces. So I don't know if he's going to like these two groups, because I think they both play stylistically differently from how he wants to play. And I don't think those people are going to listen to him and do what he wants the way my group has been doing, because we're all friends. And if one of us says, hey, I prefer X, and the other people don't mind, the other people are like, okay, let's do X and make you happy. But strangers aren't going to do that. Same thing with a pickup group in City of Heroes. If you want to, like, if you're a tanker and you want to be, like, doing more damage, if you're not doing standard tanking, the pickup group's just going to get mad at you and kick you from the group. But your friends will let you do it, right? So my advice is, whenever possible, game with friends. And what I do when I can't is this. I solo. All right, now we're going to click on this, and that's going to trap her. And the question is, should I buff everything now? And I think I should. And if she doesn't show up, I may have to pause the video and let all this stuff recharge. But I think we got to buff now, because I don't think once she's here, I don't know if we're going to have time. I'm going to leave this off because I'm going to hit this break free right at the beginning. And let's do the ritual. You've done it. I'm alive again. Ha ha ha. Okay, I actually remember this. I must have done this. It's all thanks to you, Nightmare Lash. Yeah, I guess I did do this, because I remember this cutscene. But something is wrong. This flesh isn't real. You have betrayed me. Yes, I've done this. I hope it's not letting the time run. Oh boy. She's 44. No, she's +1. Okay, we might be able to take her. Let me cut her defense down. And let's hit the break free. And she's just AoEing the crap out of my minions. And what the heck just happened? Oh boy. Alright, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to beat her at +1. I don't think I'm going to be able to beat her at +1. She's just too powerful. Oh boy. She caught up to me too fast. Come on. Is she summoning a bunch of crap? She summoned Fortunatas, I guess. Is she in there? There she is. Go get her. See if I can cut her defense. Oh man, she's back to 100% already? Yeah, there's no way. See if I can have them do a little more damage. Nah, she's killing my guys too fast. I can't heal them. It's not possible. So we're just gonna have to do this at +0. I might even have to actually do it at -1. She's way too tough. There's just no way. I'll let my demons fight her so that I can escape. You know, of course, I'm evil, so I don't care if they die. But, where's the exit to this thing? There we go. Yep. Alright, guys, I will pause this. I will redo this mission. I'm going to probably try to just go straight beeline it and see if I can just kill her. I'll bring you back when it's time to actually fight her. But we'll stop it here, and I'll bring you back when I'm ready to fight her. And you may see it twice. Like, if I can't beat her at +0, I'll try to fight her at -1. If I can't beat her at -1, then we'll just auto-complete the mission in 2 days. This will be the last video, though, since this is the end of the story arc. So I'll just pause it here, and I'll bring you back when it's time. Alright, guys, we're back. Try this again. This is a +0 room. We'll see if we can beat her. We don't have as many buffs, as many inspirations. Can we escape past this thing? No, we have to watch the whole thing. So I just invisible my way in here because I figure there's no point in fighting the whole base if I can't beat her. We'll see if we can beat her at +0. Yes, yes, I've done this. Alright, attack her. Let's cut her defense. I see there are more Fortunatas coming at us. She's summoning them. Well, there we go. We lost one guy already. Keep going after her. Yeah, I don't see how I can keep these minions alive against her. It's just not going to work. Yep. The level of micromanagement you have to do is just so obnoxious. See if I can give my guys some extra resistance and defense. We are surviving against her now. Let's let Curly do a little extra damage. Come on, get her. Let's cut her defense down. Yeah, I think we got her. What a difference the +1 makes. That's just because she's so much higher level than the minions. And that's it. So we don't have to do the whole entire base. Thank goodness. I went through it, just beelined it to get here. We got our reward merit, so that is the end of the story arc. Let's head out, and we will, I guess, talk to Ghost Widow, who's now a ghost again. And she's going to hate us. But that's alright, because We will soon be her lord and master after we defeat Lord Recluse, which is probably not actually going to happen. Arbiter Deus was waiting for me the moment I returned to my ghostly form. He told me everything. So, Nightmare Lass, you chose to obey Arbiter Deus and betray me. An interesting choice, one that secures your future within Arachnos, but does considerable damage to our relationship. But don't think that I'm mad or will seek revenge. Such passions are the folly of the living. No, I will do as I have been ordered. I will free the soul of Red Widow, as Arbiter Deus commands, but I will have to give great consideration to which task I give you next. And I guess she's done with us now until later. And unfortunately, I've got a story arc from this guy because I accidentally clicked on him, but I will do that off screen. So we now have, if we look at our salvage here, we now have 285. So 15 or more reward merits, and we should be able to get one more set. I don't know which one that will be. Alright, folks, I think we are done for level 43. We've got 4 or so beads to go to get to level 44. I will do that off screen, and I'll do another set of newspaper missions, see if we can get another contact. Until a few days from now, when I'm ready to do level 44 and our new superpower, I will see you. I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Villains on the Rebirth server.